Hello and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. One of the things that I want to talk about is something that gave us a good return on investment this year. It was using soybean pre-emerge herbicides, but we'll tell you the strategy that we've got to control resistant weeds and lead to more yield on your farm as well.
Well, Darren mentioned return on investment, and anytime we're talking about investment, I start thinking about our books on the farm. How are you doing your accounting? What are you using for an accounting system? All those types of things. Well, with farmers, you get the opportunity to use cash accounting. We want to talk about that just a little bit today, and some of these things you may be considering going into year end.
Well, hopefully that generates a little bit more cash, Brian, because you may need it to control our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop this tough weed later in the show. But first, here's our farm basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
About 25 years ago, we had to switch to some no-till on our farm, basically to reduce erosion, and that was great. We loved it. But one of the pieces of advice a lot of people gave us was, you know what you need to do in no-till is leave your residue stand tall. Well, for us, that didn't work at all. That was a disaster because the residue, these corn stalks, would tip over and we'd try to cut those corn stalks with our coulter in the spring, and we couldn't cut them very well because in the spring everything is cold and damp. It just doesn't cut. So we had really poor stands. So we ended up switching eventually to a chopping corn head. It's an incredible piece of equipment on the farm, and that's what we want to focus on during our Farm Basics time today.
I love how Brian thinks. It's black or it's white. It's, we tried this. It was a disaster. Now we've got something that we never want to go away from. We love it. We're always going to do this. And, I don't know about this always and never part to farming because things change over the years. But right now, I'll tell you this, we love using a chopping corn head. Here's why. When we're going through our cornfields in the fall, we're doing one pass and we're getting great residue management. And we think about all the things that we do on our farm. Managing that residue is one of those that gets taken for granted a lot. But no matter if you're in a no-till situation, a strip till situation, or a conventional till situation, managing corn stalk residue, especially as you're getting higher yields and higher populations, it's just critical. You are not going to get a good stand next year if you don't do it. Now, you may be thinking, wait a second here. You've chopped up all that residue into small pieces. Now I have a mat out in my field. How am I going to manage that? What we found on our farm in conventional till, it certainly flows through the machine very nicely. That's been great. In strip till, it also flows through the machine very well, and we're able to blacken up that strip where we want to plant. Now, dealing with all that residue on the ground, one of the tricks that we found in strip till is just leaving our stalks a little bit taller. So maybe we're talking about a 12 or 18 inch tall stalk. Now, if there is some wind through the winter, which there most certainly will be, and you don't have snow cover, well, now you've got some corn stalks out there to hold that residue in the field. And that's been a nice thing. And then in no-till situations, we've got residue chopped up, we've got more time for it to break down, and with the chopping corn head, the way that it's slicing into small pieces, you've got a lot of inside material of that corn stalk exposed to the weather, exposed to soil and other things. It's going to break down a lot quicker.
Exposed to bacteria is the other thing that I think about quite often. We want to have these pieces of residue decaying just as quickly as possible, not only so they're easier to plant into next spring, but also so any of the nutrients that's in that residue gets released for our next crop, not released 2 or 3 years down the road. So these are big reasons why we want to have that residue chopped up into little pieces. It's a lot easier to work with. You're going to have a little bit faster soil warm up, fewer problems planting. It's a great thing. The other thing that I like about this overall, that we've gone to on our farm, we've gone to some Capello chopping corn heads, has really nothing to do with the chopping or anything else. It has everything to do with the folding heads. So when we were looking at buying some 12-row heads for our farm, this is a few years ago now, the one big thing our dad said is, guys, I know what's going to happen. People aren't going to want to drop those heads off the combine, put them on a trailer and haul them to the next field. So make sure you're getting a folding head. That's an option you can absolutely do. We farm right near the biggest city in South Dakota. Now granted, it's not this enormous metropolis, but still, there are a lot of cars running around. You've got to take a look at safety too. So we love the chopping corn head. We love the folding on the corn head. Those are very important things for us on our farm as we try to get more productivity while at the same time being as safe as possible.
Well, the folding option saves a lot of time too. Brian talked about taking heads off, loading them on trailers, hauling them, then hooking them back up. If you can just fold up and go and then unfold and start harvesting again, it's going to save you at least a half an hour per field, which is a really big deal as you go through harvest. The other thing that I'd like to mention is just this one pass through the field. We're chopping up all that corn stalk residue before we drive over it with the combine. So our fields stay much more even. It's a lot easier to work things, and we have a much more even emergence of our next crop that comes up as well.
Well, once again, we do love chopping corn heads. We think that's the way to go, whether you're talking no-till, strip-till, or conventional till. We've run all these systems. We've run all kinds of different heads. All we can tell you is, in our experience, a chopping corn head has been the way to go.
Chopping corn heads are great for managing residue. We'll talk about methods for managing our weed of the week as well, coming up later in the show.
We had super dry conditions there at the end of the fall, probably some driest corn we've harvested. Head shell was almost nil, very minimal. We were down to a kernel or less per square foot with this head, and normally we thought we were doing good keeping down to that 3 kernels per square feet with our previous head, whether the corn's worth $3, $6, or $8 a bushel. Definitely puts more money in our pocket at the end of the day.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Stop coring your bins with the AgriDry Gravity Grain Spreader. Traditional bin filling systems create uneven concentrations of grain and fine particulates. Uniform grain distribution allows even airflow throughout the entire bin, giving you more control over temperature and moisture content, increasing your grain quality and bottom line. Call us today for more information.
Dry Load Store, 1-855 AgriDry.
With new seed traits and chemistries entering the market, your crop protection equipment needs precision and adaptability. Hypro Innovative Spray Technologies has the products to give your applications greater accuracy, less drift, and more coverage. Hypro, right on technology, right on target.
There are trillions of hardworking microbes right beneath your feet. Today, Monsanto BioAg is harnessing the power of microbes, creating microscopic farmhands that help plants access nutrients, enhance root and shoot growth, and handle stressful conditions throughout the season, protecting and maximizing your yield potential. We're turning 500 trillion microbes into 500 trillion new farmhands, ready for work. Nature, it's powerful technology.
Which soybean pre-emerge herbicides will you use on your farm? Well, we're going to talk about soybean pre options today. Before we do though, I just want to say this. There are a lot of new technologies, whether it's LibertyLink, Roundup Ready 2 Xtend, and people start thinking, you know, even though I've had Roundup resistance, I can switch over to this other technology. Now I can get away from using a pre. No way. You cannot get away from using a pre if you want top weed control and top yields.
Well, when you said which pre-emerge herbicides will you use, my thought was all of them. and possibly all of them at the same time. It depends on where you're at, of course. It depends on which ones are choices for you. But you're going to need to use multiple soybean pre's, regardless of which system you're in, if you want the best weed control and the best yield. So when you look at pre-emerge herbicides, it's important that you look at the site of action. So you look at what type of weed killer it is and try to pick ones from different families that are all effective on the weeds that you've got. When we look at a resistant weed, like Palmer pigweed, for example, we want to make sure we have at least 2 modes of action that are effective on the weed, if not 3, if that's possible, in your pre-emerge program. That way we can wipe out most of the Palmer pigweed before it even comes up out of the ground. It's been exciting looking at some of the trial work being done in the south, seeing what just one effective mode of action can do. If we can get 85 or 90% control out of just one site of action, that's good. Now if we can get up to 95% with the second and possibly up to 98, 99% control with that third pre, we've really got a program here that can work for you.
All right, 99% isn't good enough for me. I want 99.9, and I'm being dead serious here because just think about any of these tough to control weeds out there. Let's say it's water hemp or Palmer pigweed. They can put on 1 million seeds per plant. If you have 1,000 of them that go to seed in your field, how many weeds is that? That's 1 billion weeds. Is 99% control good enough? No way. So here's what you need. You need 3 pre-emerge herbicides, and the ones we recommend would be starting with a yellow. That would be either Treflan, Sonalan, or Prowl. Treflan's the cheapest, but it also has the most carryover, and it has to be instantly incorporated. Prowl is the no-till product. The second mode of action I'd use would be metribuzin. That'd be like the old Sencor. Now you have to take a look at what your soil type is and soil pH, but in a lot of cases we talk about 1/3 of a pound. If you need to reduce your rate because your pH is really high, like over 7.4, or if you have sandy ground, you can certainly do that. The third mode of action would be a PPO. We like to see Authority or Valor. Those products have excellent residual on many of these tough broadleaf weeds. So again, we're talking 3 pre's in a lot of cases, and right away you might say, oh my goodness, Brian, I'm going to spend so much money. No, you're not. Treflan's $4, metribuzin's $4, and something like Valor is $6, so you got $14. $14, it's roughly 1.5 bushels of soybeans for 99.9% weed control. Sign me up for that.
Well, another mode of action that gets talked about a lot in the early pre-emerge market here is the Group 15s. So maybe it's a product like Zidua, for example, or Metolachlor. Some of those products are getting used in different premixes early in the season. That's fine, but those products are likely our best option for residual control in season. So like in our first post-emerge pass, you could add in a Group 15 in many cases and extend your residual window further into the season. So yes, you could put a Group 15 in early, and in some cases maybe you've got resistance to one of those 3 sites of action Brian was talking about. Maybe you could insert a Group 15 instead of one of those, so you still had 3 effective sites of action pre. Depending on the rate you're using, you could potentially use a Group 15 again post.
All right, there are a lot of different pre's out there, a lot of premixes, all that kind of thing. So we really encourage you stick with the 3 groups that we talked about already, the yellow, the metribuzin, and the PPO, because those can't be used post-emerge. We've got other things like Darren mentioned a Group 15, Dual, Warrant, Zidua, any of those types of products, Outlook, they can be used post. So can FlexStar, so can Pursuit. There are many different products that can be used post. We like saving the post products for post. Certainly you can use an Authority first, you can use a prefix, you can use something like that down. We just rather go a little bit different direction. And again, we really want to see you use 3 modes of action pre. Now, let's talk about these new Roundup Ready 2 Xtend beans or Liberty beans. Yep, you've got something that can be effective post-emerge. But how many times do you want to spray that? What's it going to cost? How good a control are you actually going to get? How tall are the weeds going to get by the time you spray? All I come back to is when you can do it as inexpensively now as you can to put 3 modes of action down, it's a really good way to go. And if you have to, you could cut back to 2, but I'd really like to see you running 3 modes of action. At least do it on your worst fields. At least get it on the worst acres so you can get that great control there.
One other thing that weeds are not resistant to is tillage. So you could absolutely do some tillage out here to supplement what you're doing with your pre-emerge herbicides. So the question may be, do I do the tillage before I put the pre's out, or do I use the tillage to incorporate the pre's? Well, in the case of Treflan, that has to be instantly incorporated. So if you're going to do tillage and use Treflan, you could accomplish that all in one pass. Just have your spray nozzles right in front of the tillage tool. That's the best way to go.
All right, when we look at metribuzin or the PPOs, they can be tilled in or not tilled in. And for that matter, there is a yellow prowl that can be used in no-till. So I'm just trying to say, if you look at those 3 modes of action that we talked about already, you can use them in no-till or you can use them in conventional till. It's just you have to, if you're going to till, keep the metribuzin and the PPO shallow. If you're going to go no-till, you need to switch away from Treflan or Sonalan and go to prowl.
If you've got tough to control weeds, especially Roundup resistant weeds on your farm, and you're going to plant soybeans, the only way to get your maximum yield and maximum weed control is using residual herbicides. It starts with a great pre-emerge program. We recommend using 3 effective sites of action. The question is, what will stop our weed of the week? We'll show you coming up later in the show.
Technology is constantly changing the way we farm. Hypro Innovative Spray Technologies are here to keep your farm at the forefront of agricultural innovation. With spray application equipment for any scenario, Hypro is here to put you right on technology, right on target.
When you think about it, productivity starts at planting. So it's time to rethink how productive your planter can be. We did with the new Case IH 2000 Series Early Riser Planter. We rethought your row unit so it's tougher, more accurate. We rethought your meter, took the most precise technology, factory installed it. We rethought every inch of the Case IH Early Riser Planter to make it the most productive planter around. And if you think about it, that's exactly what you want.
I would recommend Morton for many reasons, but one is that they have a long history of standing behind their buildings.
Our sales experience with Morton was a nice experience. You know, they told us what it was going to cost, what it was going to be, you know, how it was going to run, and it worked out really well for us.
Morton has built me one heck of a nice building, and it should stand for a very, very long time. I was very happy with the workmanship.
Check us out online at mortonbuildings.com.
Sometimes getting the yield you want means you need a whole new game plan. Think about it. When the older conventional fertilizer you've been using goes head-to-head with tough soil conditions, they can get all tied up before they ever have a chance to score. That's when it's time to regroup. Time to send in the A-Team. AgroLiquid isn't like other fertilizers. Their nutrient-balanced products stay in the soil in the right formulations in just the right amounts. And because of AgroLiquid's unique chelation technology, you wind up using less and seeing more in your yields. So you could wind up having one heck of a championship season. Make a smart start with AgroLiquid. To find the closest nutrient coach near you, visit agroliquid.com.
For lower costs, higher production, Mandico Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Avoid costly downtime with Twister's ease of maintenance. Its unique Coulter suspension allows it to follow the contour of the field yet remain forgiving in rocks. Our hydraulically adjustable Coulter angles mean you never leave the cab, making residue management easier, more efficient. Spring or fall, the Mandico Twister is the new leader. Check with your local dealer or visit mandicoagri.com.
When it comes to doing the bookwork on your farm, one of the big advantages that we have as farmers is being able to use cash accounting.
Yeah, cash accounting is huge because now you can prepay for expenses to put those expenses in this year. The other thing with cash accounting, we harvested a crop in the fall, but it all depends on when you sell it. When you actually get the cash, well, that's when you pay the income tax. So it allows you to basically defer your taxes, or another way to look at it is income averaging. You can do all those things because of cash accounting.
All right, so once you're into prepaying, you're pretty much always in, aren't you?
Not necessarily. What happens if you have a bad year on the farm? The big thing that our dad always told us is you want to try to make as much money as possible and pay as little tax in the short term as possible. Keep pushing that tax bill off longer, then you can use that money in the meantime.
All right, why does the government encourage farmers to push paying the taxes off just one more year?
It's an economic stimulus package. Basically, if the farmer is going to prepay for anything so he can lower his tax bill this year, he's going to have to pay the tax eventually. But the only way he lowered his tax bill is he put money into the economy. It's a big deal. So one of the other big questions that we get is, how about gifting? A lot of people say, you know what, in the Bible it tells me I'm supposed to give 10% away. People will ask, all right, I want to give money to my church, but how do I do that as economically as possible? Well, here again we talk about this cash accounting. Okay, if I've got grain and I don't ever sell the grain, then I don't have to pay income tax on it, right? So how about if I give the grain away? Now we encourage you, talk to your tax accountant on this, but this is something that a lot of farmers do, is they give grain to their church or to their nonprofit charity. Since that church or charity is nonprofit, they don't have to pay tax when they sell the grain. The big thing is that you change ownership of that grain before it gets sold, and that entity that you gave it to decides when to sell it.
Well, there's certainly a lot of advantages for farmers with cash accounting, but there are also some things that go into farming that require so much more risk, like you don't know what your income is going to be next year at all. So cash accounting is something that we have available to use, and we need to use it to its fullest potential.
Well, another thing we have available to use is herbicides, fortunately, because we've got our weed of the week to control. We'll show you how to do it on your farm coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our weed of the week for today is common mullein.
This is a weed that we see in pastures and non-crop areas. It's a biennial. So one year it's got this rosette that's kind of close to the ground, and in year two it's got the bolt stage where it actually gets fairly tall, and it puts on a seed head that is going to produce about 100,000 seeds per plant. So it's a serious weed issue that you have to deal with.
All right, so in the non-crop areas, what I'm always looking at is, does 2,4-D control it? Does dicamba control it? In this case, yes. It's just like any other biennial weed though. You want to get it in the first year. If you wait until the second year when it's got that great big seed head on, well, maybe you're not going to prevent those seeds from being viable. So do the best you can to control it in that first year and use a good strong rate of 2,4-D or dicamba.
Well, I like Tordon and Chaparral. They're premium priced products, but they do work even better, and they do get down into that root system just a little bit better. Now, if common mullein happens to get out into crop ground, the best option is probably Roundup. Also, dicamba works very well if that would work in your rotation.
Here's the other good news with common mullein. It doesn't like shade. What we're saying is, if you have great grass production in your pasture, if you have a great stand of corn, soybeans, wheat, it can choke out that common mullein. That's the best way to go.
That's all the time we have for our Weed of the Week, common mullein, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon-D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
Looking for a solution that will grow your returns on every acre? Farmer's Edge offers the most complete package, including hardware, software, variable rate technology services, soil sampling, and unbeatable support, all for only $3.95 an acre. Grow more precisely with Farmer's Edge. To get a special offer from Farmer's Edge, visit growyourreturns.com. That's growyourreturns.com. Grow your returns for only $3.95 an acre with Farmer's Edge. Can you afford not to?
We've been growing Stein corn for 2 years now. We're on our second year of it. We gave it our best shot last year, and it made us believe that what we were seeing, we had to keep going. Once we came to harvest, you run that combine through in the yield monitor, and I mean, it created way too many questions. There were bushels out there that we had never even seen before, and I mean, it was just crazy. I choose Stein because of their results. I choose Stein because Stein has yield.
Side dressing nitrogen? Applying nitrogen over the row boosts nitrogen uptake and efficiency. 360 Y-Drop places nitrogen at the base of the plant, not like Coulter systems that put it down the center of the row. With Y-Drop, a small amount of moisture moves nitrogen into the root zone for rapid uptake. Getting more bushels out of your nitrogen investment is important. 360 Y-Drop lets you apply nitrogen later in the season so you know exactly how much N is needed to finish the crop strong. Learn more at 360yieldcenter.com.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
If you're looking for ways to increase yield and profitability, chances are you're putting more than just a pop-up fertilizer in your furrow. Mixing several things together can be a risky proposition though, so we have a solution in today's Iron Talk. Coming up this planting season, I'd like liquid fertilizer in my furrow. I'd also like insecticide, fungicide, maybe a couple of biologicals and PGRs I've been working with the last couple of seasons. It's a lot of stuff. Now, while we do believe that each one of those inputs can provide a positive return on investment for our farm, we're concerned, number one, if they'll all mix together without causing problems. Number two, if they'll antagonize each other or decrease the effectiveness of one of the other ingredients. And number three, how can we accurately apply precise rates of each product? One solution many farmers are turning to across the country is really some older technology with a new purpose. Dosatrons have gotten quite popular the last couple of seasons. They don't require fancy electronics or complicated wiring. Dosatrons simply work by putting a desired percentage of a product, such as xanthion fungicide, into the flow of product, in this case starter fertilizer. So as 5 gallons of starter fertilizer flows through the lines, the Dosatron can add other products accurately to the solution. We have a setup that can apply a product anywhere from 0.2% up to 2% of the total solution. But there are Dosatrons that can do up to 10% depending on the product you're trying to add. For the tank, Dosatron, and connectors, we spent about $800. It's simple to use and an inexpensive addition to your planter setup. If you're adding quite a bit to your in-furrow program like we are, a Dosatron may be something to consider adding to your farm. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
That's our time for this week. We certainly hope you can join us again next week for Ag PhD. But in the meantime, we encourage you to tune into Ag PhD Radio. It's our live daily show that you can catch on Sirius XM Channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
While the population of our planet grows each year, the amount of farmland we have to grow food for everyone becomes less. According to the USDA, farmers will need to produce as much food in the next 40 years as they have in the last 500. To learn how they are doing it sustainably, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.